A green-tinted screen and braille lettering pops up that turns into the white Lighthouse of Houston logo. The Sightless Voices Unleashing Potential cover art pops up on screen. There's a flash, then clips of Jennifer's eye, her walking down the hall, and reading braille appear. A montage of clips from episodes of the podcast begins with Jennifer talking to our guests and smiling. It zooms in on the Sightless Voices Unleashing Potential cover art.
Hey everybody, welcome to Sightless Voices Unleashing Potential. I am Jennifer Parrish, your hostie with the mostie. And today we are joined by someone whose life redefines what's possible. Our guest is none other than Lonnie Bedwell, a former U.S. Navy petty officer, a single father of three, and one of the most accomplished blind adventure athletes in the world. After losing his vision instantly in 1997 in a hunting accident, Lonnie rebuilt his life through service, community, and a relentless drive to push boundaries. Lonnie, welcome to the show. I'm so happy that you were able to join us. I know you're a very, very busy man.
Thank you. I appreciate being here.
So to start off, can you just introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your vision loss journey?
Well, like I said, Lonnie Bedwell, I'm 60 years old. I got into adaptive adventure sports in 2011. So I was about 45 years old when I started that. But yeah, my journey kind of into it, I guess. In 1997, like I said, I took a full shotgun blast to the face while turkey hunting. A good friend of mine accidentally shot me. They said it about 9 steps. Had, I think, 85 of the BB pellets up in there at the first little scan or whatever they did with it. And I have no idea how many I have left. But it was instantly lights out. You know, I refer to myself as LOL, lights out Lonnie. So
Nice.
Yeah. And I was married at the time and ended up separated in raising the 3 girls, you know, by myself. And I actually got into building houses after I lost my eyesight, something I didn't do anything before. Prior, I had been a shift supervisor at a power plant and still in the Army National Guard after doing approximately 9 years of active duty in the Navy, riding submarines. And then 3 years to the day that I got off of active duties when the accident was. And that ended my military career and yeah.
Started the new life. Yes, sir. All right. Well, so before we get into today's conversation in depth, I'm going to describe our set for the blind and low vision viewers. We're seated in blue chairs with wooden tables beside us. Behind us is a white brick wall with soft blue lighting and a glowing neon lighthouse sign. All right. So take me back to 1997. So what do you remember about the moment that your life changed, and then what came next?
Well, I definitely remember the accident for sure.
Right.
Like I said, it was instantaneous. And if I'd lost consciousness, I wouldn't have made it because it messed up more than just my eyesight. Mm-hmm. Buddy left there. But, you know, the first part of it for me was, you know, I was just distraught. You know, I distinctly remember a couple of months after the accident lying at home on the couch. I'd went from weighing 182 pounds down to 129 pounds, drinking Ensure shakes like they were candy.
Wow.
Yeah. But it's just fighting back these tears, thinking about my daughters. You know, what do they think of me? How am I going to be daddy? How am I going to do anything? And so, you know, it was just that mindset that I heard someone else say they had when they was losing their eyesight. They was afraid the next step they took was going to tip them off the end of the world.
Right.
You know? So
yeah.
Took that step and the world was still there. But I was so fortunate. Just a couple of months after the accident, my youngest daughter, who, by the way, the 3 girls are Courtney, Ashley, Taylor. I call them Court, Peanut, and Bug.
Oh.
Yeah, and they were 5, 9, and 11. Just about a few weeks after the accident, the younger 2 turned 5 and 9. But Taylor, I had no mobility training at the time. Got up and got off the couch and went outside and totally lost a few steps into the yard, but. Cutting this little kind of long story short, my youngest daughter ended up helping me get the lawnmower out of the barn, riding lawnmower, out of the garage, and took me out to this little barn that I couldn't get into because the weeds were up to my chest. And she stepped off, and then I managed to mow a few laps around that barn. And when it was done, you know, she was screaming, you know, "You did it, Daddy, you did it." And I knew you could do it. And that helped just redefine my, you know, life, if you will. At that point, I said, you know, my daughters, they changed my vision more than the loss of my eyesight ever did. And I know you guys, most people talk about the fact that they say, you know, they lost their vision, they lost their vision. I personally kind of flip that from, I tell everybody, I personally lost eyesight and I gained vision.
That's awesome. That's a wonderful way to think about it too. And like you said, so you were a single father of 3 at the time. That's wild because I have 2 siblings and my parents had enough trouble with all of us 2 parents. So how did that responsibility shape the way that you approach your blindness and rebuilding your life?
Well, you know, the girls, you know, like I said, it's kind of funny for me. All the adults were saying, you know, no, let me do that for you. Let me help you here. Let me help you there. And my daughters were the ones that were saying, you know, go. And that mowing incident, you know, it was so important to me to realize, okay, to these girls, I am still daddy. To these girls, I'm still the man. And it's like, okay, now that you have this responsibility of being daddy, then buck up, you know,
right,
and start doing things. And that was just huge. It was absolutely huge. And then all the adults started kind of getting on board at that time and thinking, okay, these girls have no concept of what they're doing, you know, and we better get involved because they're gonna keep going. And that was just, yeah.
Exactly. So the mowing incident was kind of the redefining
Yes.
moment in the rehabilitation process, if you will, in the recovery. So what were some of the hardest parts about adjusting and what helped you push through?
Well, the hardest parts naturally was just absolutely just trying to figure out how to navigate, how to do anything, you know, because I went from totally sighted to totally blind,
Right.
lights out. And no, I just, how do I cook? You know, how do I do this? How do I do that? And I didn't go to a blind rehab center for 14 years.
That was my next question.
Yeah.
Yes.
I didn't go for 14 years because I didn't want to leave those girls, you know. And in hindsight, had I have went to a blind rehab center quicker, I might not have got divorced. I don't know. And it probably would have helped me a whole lot more with dealing with raising the girls and just dealing with everyday life, you know. So I kind of learned everything on my own, you know. I had someone come in and do a little bit of mobility training for me, not much. And so an O&M instructor would not like how I get around. But it works for me. And, but, you know, I just learning and just not giving up. That mindset at that point was, okay, just don't give up. You got to do this. I started teaching or helping coach my daughter's softball teams. I actually, you know, when they got old enough, I taught them how to cook, taught them how to hunt, even though that's how I lost my eyesight, taught them how to hunt, how to fish, taught them how to do laundry, how to drive, you name it. So
How to drive.
yeah.
That's pretty awesome. So tell me about that. Did you just kind of describe like, all right, you know, pedals and the car and all of it?
Yeah, and I had an old Ford F-150 four-wheel drive pickup truck, and I would get in it, put it in four-wheel low so it wouldn't go too fast, and put one of them on my lap and steer, and I'd roll the window down so I could hear how fast the weeds were going and kind of the rev of the motor.
Nice.
And they'd steer, and I'd shift the gears, and as they got older, you know, one of them might sit and shift the gears while I did the clutch and the brake and the gas, and you know, as the years progressed, and then the older ones, they got more and more and more, and then they started letting me drive. So down the road, you know, we took off down the county road.
Nice.
So,
yeah. Them county roads are great for the teaching the blind people how to drive. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like, you're not going to miss too much. Just don't roll over the bank.
yeah. It worked.
That's awesome. All right, so let's talk about your National Geographic stuff because this is cool, man. I read about you and I was like, man, all right. So you've completed some of the most extreme expeditions on the planet, including solo kayaking descents down the Grand Canyon, the Zambezi, and the Golly. So what drew you to adventure? And then can you tell us about, you know, some of the experiences on all these adventures?
Yeah, what actually drew me to it is that first time going to the blind rehab center. After my youngest daughter, Taylor, like I said, Bug, the youngest daughter, Bug, when she was a senior in high school, it's like, okay, you know, you got to get a little bit more independent and learn some technology, you know, because now you're going to be on your own.
Right.
So when I went to the VA Blind Rehab Center up in Chicago, Illinois, they heard the backstory of me starting to build houses. You know, I do anything from the ground up, framing, sheeting, wiring, roofing, you name it, and using a chainsaw to cut firewood, and I push them all around the ponds and outbuildings. And so they heard that backstory. and they asked me while I was up, but they said, "Hey, Lonnie, we know blind people snow ski."
Ooh, I've skied. Yes, it's awesome.
Yeah, and they said, but we've never done it here as a recreational outing, and we need something for these younger veterans to do as they're coming back from Iraq and Afghanistan from combat. Said, will you be our guinea pig? And I said, twist my arm. And so I didn't do any of these adventure sports until I didn't kayak, rock climb, mountaineer, mountain bike, snow ski, none of it. I didn't do any of it before I lost my eyesight. And so it started on a little bunny hill up in Wilmot, Wisconsin, and then the snow skiing ended up taking me to a place where I was introduced to the mountaineering and rock climbing, kayaking thing. And there was an organization that asked me, as far as mountaineering, they said, Lonnie, we'd like to see if we can get blind people to the top of a mountain. Will you be our guinea pig? Twist my arm.
Twist my arm.
Yeah. And the same way with the kayaking up in Montana, there was a gentleman of an organization, Joe Mornini's the executive director of Team River Runner. And we just did what they call an out-of-sight clinic up in Montana, where I was introduced to my first whitewater. And while we were sitting at the airport afterwards, he said, Lonnie, he said, how would you like to be the first blind veteran to kayak the Colorado River through the Grand Canyon? And I was like, wow. And so that's, that's for me become my mission, if you will, my next duty assignment. Like I said, the accident ended my military career, but this was another way to continue to serve and pay it, back to other people. Look, we lost our eyesight, guys, but we didn't lose our vision.
There you go. Pay it forward.
So, yeah.
Mm-hmm. So you were the National Geographic Adventurer of the Year. This is so awesome. I'm not worthy to be around you. This is so cool. So what did that recognition mean to you?
Well, it's just kind of surreal. There was like 10 of us that year. We considered National Geographic Adventurer of the Year, and it was for the kayaking descent through the Grand Canyon. Yeah. And the second time, I've actually done it 4 times now. And
wow.
So I grew up reading National Geographic. It's like, you got to be kidding me. This little guy from Pleasantville, Indiana, population 75, and I'm doing this stuff. It's just crazy.
Yeah. Yeah. That's just so cool. So what do you think it takes both mentally and physically to navigate the environments that challenge even the sighted folks?
Well, mentally, it takes the aspect of believing in yourself, which that's what we all need to do, right? Every single person wants people to believe in them, and it starts with believing in yourself. So this thing of, okay, I might not be able to do this, but I can do this, and I can do more than I think I can. And that's how we all are, sighted and unsighted. It doesn't matter. We can all do so much more than we think we can. And it's just this thing of not giving up and asking for a handout, a hand up, not a handout.
Exactly.
So it's that humbling yourself to accept that hand up.
Mm-hmm.
And so from that aspect, and just training, just doing it and just continuing to just take another step. And okay, if that doesn't work, what does? And trying to figure all that out step after step. And then from a physical standpoint, it's just truly just trying to keep yourself in shape to do this extreme stuff. I do a lot of exercising. Just, for example, yesterday I got up and I did 20 miles on a Peloton bike. I did an hour's worth of ab workout, and then I did a 5.5 mile run.
Woo!
So,
wow.
Yeah.
I hear those Pelotons are pretty accessible, eh?
Hey, they are. Yeah. That was a game changer for me, really.
Really?
Yeah. I really, really enjoy it. One monthly expense that I have that I'm going to keep up.
Absolutely worth it.
Yeah, because you get on there and you have someone training you. Say, okay, speed up, slow down. Do this, more pressure, more.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
that's awesome.
Yeah, you got someone talking you through the whole program, and as they're talking to everyone through it. But yeah, it is. It's awesome.
Yeah, I was just genuinely curious. I was looking into kind of getting something like that. That's very cool. All right, what do you hope people understand about blindness when they see what you've accomplished?
Blindness is just one form of a disability, if you will. We talk about, but I tell people all the time, you take that word at its core, disabled. Not able. There's not a human being on the face of the earth that's not disabled.
Right. Able to do everything.
Yeah, they can't do it. No, it's impossible to. It's not their gift. So, I tell them to kind of focus on your gifts, and that's what we need to do. Every one of us has this unique basket of gifts that nobody else in the world has. And that's what makes each and every one of us so extremely valuable, so extremely important. And our gifts become other people's gifts. So the key, I think, is to focus on your gift and whatever they may be. And like I said, we have multiple gifts. And it's just don't give up. And
Do what you do best.
I don't know if I answered that question. I think I drifted a little bit there, but that's fine.
You're good. We're very, very relaxed here. So you can just go which directions you got to go. All right. So before your accident, you were a U.S. Navy petty officer. How did your military experience shape your character and your leadership style?
Well, there's no doubt that the time in the service definitely helped me with leadership.
Yeah.
Because as you grow in your military career, you're just inherently put in positions of leadership, and then you get to training and aspects of it, and the constant drill. I mean, it's just drill after drill after drill, and mission after mission after mission, and so that in itself, helped me with my leadership aspects of life. But then it also helped me with dealing with the loss of eyesight. Because we were, like I said, just those constant, just stressful moments that you were thrown into. It's like, okay, deal with it now. And it taught me too, as going through, once I got into the adaptive sports stuff, to okay, calm down. When you start to get this anxiety, it taught me this way of suppressing that anxiety. It was huge for me, I know. And it's like, okay, Lonnie, to deal with this anxiety, like with flipping upside down the kayak in the middle of a rapid, it could freak you out, and it can, but then, it was like, okay, calm down, Lonnie. Yeah. Set up, feel where you're at, feel when it's going to let you try to roll up, and now pop the roll, and just calm down. And the outcome might not be great, but the odds of it being good are better if you can do that.
Yeah, and chill out your anxiety.
Yeah.
I need to tell myself that too. I totally get it. So when you talk to veterans and service members facing their own challenges, what do you hope that they take away from your story?
Well, it's like I said, we come from an environment that, hey, we're this tough macho man or this lady or whatever the case may be, and we're so used to being able to do stuff. Is we lost our eyesight. Well, this is just mainly for blind people, but we lost our eyesight, but we didn't lose our vision. We still have all this knowledge, and for other people in the military, it doesn't diminish our value as a human being. The fact that we are now quote unquote disabled, it doesn't diminish our value or our purpose, our worth. So I think that's the biggest thing to get instilled into them is that exact point. Is now we just got to find our new normal.
Exactly.
But we still have immense value and worth. And take what we know and focus on what we can do and go ahead and do it.
Absolutely. We were talking about the phone earlier, and I was thinking, we put one of these iPhones with the voiceover on it in front of a sighted person. They're like, what the heck, man? Yeah.
Can you really understand that? That's going
oh my God. I get that all the time. Like, what are you doing? You really understand? Yes, sir. Yeah. Do you want to share some advice for someone who's facing a life-changing moment or a struggle to see a way forward?
Yeah, I think there's a couple of things there. One thing I do want to address is something that you mentioned, this courage thing. Eleanor Roosevelt, I'm kind of paraphrasing, she said, you don't have to have courage. You just have to act courageously. You can be scared as all living get out, but you just don't quit. And I think I kind of alluded to a little bit of this, but I think there's three emotions I think that hold most all people back. I call them emotions more than any. That's foolish pride, fear, and pity. And foolish pride, there's nothing wrong with being proud of who you are, what you've done, and things in your life. But it's foolish when you cannot humble yourself to ask for that hand up I was talking about earlier. And there's no one ever got to where they're at in life without somebody helping them, teaching them, guiding them along the way. Nobody. And nobody can do everything. So, and just humble yourself and take that hand up. And that foolish pride leads into the fear factor, FEAR, I like to say false evidence about reality.
Nice.
they're going to make fun of me if I can't do it by myself. They're going to think I'm useless or worthless. I'm not a man anymore because of this, or or I might get hurt. If I step outside, I might get bit by this dog that might not be out there. So if I know a dog's out there, I'm not going to step out there that bites. I'm not going to do it. But to simply not take a step outside because something might happen, well, that's why. Because that's really not going to happen. Most of the time, it's not going to happen. We take all the precautions. So face that fear, and then it leads into the worst one of all. I think the two of them together leads into the pity. P-I-T-Y. I like to say is poor information to yourself. There's nothing wrong with having compassion for people, and we're all going to have those moments of feeling a little sorry. But to pity yourself or to pity others or have someone pity you, that's crippling. That keeps you from moving forward. I'm once again, I'm useless. I'm blind. I'm not a man now because I'm blind. Bull roar. Yeah. I'm a father.
Yep.
And I like to tell people this all the time. I'm not the blind guy, Lonnie Bedwell. I am Lonnie Bedwell, blind adventure athlete, father, motivational speaker, carpenter, just on and on and on and on, who just so happens to be blind.
Well said. And I also need a list of your acronyms. This is good
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah. And I think, too, one more little thing I'd like to...
Definitely.
You talk about acronyms. You threw me into one here. Adversity. How do you overcome adversity? You break it down. The ADVERSITY. The hardest part is always the first. It seems overwhelming, like the first step up a mountain. The A and the D, acknowledging and possibly accepting there's going to be differences and difficulties, yeah. But once you truly acknowledge, okay, I'm blind, or I'm this, I'm that, or I'm in this situation, whatever it is, you truly acknowledge it, and it stinks, it's going to be hard, but then it empowers you to do the VER, to visualize every route you can take, every one of them. And then it gives you the S, the things my daughters told me, the S, the strength to do what? To stand up and to step, to wear the ITY into you, your future, the life you can live.
All right. So what was the experience like as, an adventurer and a blind person? And then what did you learn from it?
Well, the adventures, some of them, like I said, I think about this, the first blind descent of the Colorado River through the Grand Canyon and the Zambezi. And, then the thing that I learned that was, to me, or at least one of them, is truly what's possible. We didn't know it could be done, and then just say, okay, it can be done, and what else can be done. But then also I could distinctly remember standing on the bank of the river that last night on the Grand Canyon, and everybody coming up and saying, congratulations, you're the first to ever do this, you're the first to ever do this. And I told them, I said, you guys are wrong. I said, we were the first to ever do this. And it's absolutely irrelevant and meaningless unless we can find a way to pay it forward. So in doing all, like I said, it's cool to be able to say, I have to admit, but it truly is. We don't get there alone, and I think about this climbing of the mountains, I just finished climbing Mount Kilimanjaro again for the second time. But the importance of that is when I did it the first time in 2015, I was supposed to climb with a gentleman by the name of Aaron who lost his eyesight in Afghanistan. But just a few weeks before we went to do it, he developed spinal meningitis, leaving him not only totally blind, but totally deaf. And he come back and revisited the fact and said, Lonnie, I want to climb it again. He had, after cochlear implant, the right one didn't take, the left one, he's got about 40% when everything's working perfect. But he decided he wanted to go try to climb it again, and we went and climbed it together. I'm totally blind and totally deaf. But the first time...
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah, but the first time, I'm going to add this in there, the first time when I was talking to his caregiver, and initially the only way we could communicate with Aaron was to spell letter by letter in his hand.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was on the phone with him talking to his caregiver, and I told him he was in his hospital bed. She was right beside him. I said, you tell Aaron I'm not going to climb until he can climb with me. And he I heard him repeat every letter, then every word, and then once he realized what I was saying, he screamed at me, said, Bedwell, no, 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 no. You climb it for me, you climb it for us, you climb it for all of us. And that blew me away because in his total silence and total darkness, we still shared a vision. And that vision is much more than him and I standing on top of a mountain. It is that aspect of, once again, trying to prove that there's unlimited potential in each and every one of us, and there's hardly nothing beyond us if we'll simply unite for a common goal and help each other. And that's truly what it is.
Definitely.
So, yeah. And just like me and you, Jennifer, between the two of us, we got a lot of wisdom.
Heck yeah.
Yeah, you got all the whiz, and I'll supply all the dumb.
Nice. Nice. Oh, he's a jokester. So did you have any favorite moments or like a favorite trip that you went on?
Oh, I always tell people, it's the next one. Yeah, it's the next one. What can we do? What can't we do? But no, truly though, the first trip down, all the trips down to Grand Canyon, the first, it's, because it hadn't been done. But what makes the trips are the people and the relationships you get on, and I think when I just reflect on the moments of, I could just go endless with these stories.
Heck yeah.
And
we love them.
Yeah, flipping in it. And I distinctly remember, too, climbing Mount Denali on day one. I was an hour and a half into it, and I was part of a 4-man rope team, and the guy behind me said, hey, Lonnie, take a step or two to the right to give this other team room to pass as they're coming down. And we happened to be going over an ice bridge, and when I did, it broke through under my feet, and I started to drop into this crevasse.
Oh, Lord.
And the rope team caught me. But the other team happened to be a Polish team, and the lead guy on the other team laid on his belly, helped me get up and work my way up out of that crevasse. And as I was standing there, I was explaining to them, that I was blind. Once they realized I was blind, they're like, no, good idea, go back. Like, no, go forward. Don't go back, go forward. Yeah. And so, yeah, it's just, I have to be absolutely, without question, before the loss of my eyesight and after, one of the most blessed human beings to ever walk the face of this earth. And, if I could see tomorrow, absolutely. If I could go back 29 years next week, not a chance.
Yeah.
No way would I do that.
Yeah, that's a common question that people ask blind people too. And it's like, if you could see tomorrow, would you do it? I'm like, no way, man, because this is all I know, and I think I would freak out. Like, what is that thing coming at me?
Isn't that funny though? Perspective, because to me, I would, because I know what I know what it was.
Exactly.
To where you didn't.
Nope.
And I love to talking like a lot of people. When I'm around folks like yourself, who I assume you don't know color.
I do know color. Actually, that's one of the few things I can see.
Okay,
yeah,
but
I do know that.
I do know I'm around some that don't know color. And
it's common.
It's funny to me that when I'm around them and people are trying to explain to them what color is. And how can you explain color?
Exactly. Because people say red is warm, and I'm like, what's warm? Like, what's warm? What is that? Okay.
Well, it's also love. Well, it's also fire. It's also
right.
Anger.
It's good and bad.
Yeah.
Yeah, man.
So but the thing is, it's perspective.
Yeah.
And I think that's the key is to take the time to listen to each other and try to understand their perspective.
Yeah.
It's impossible to walk in another person's shoes. Impossible. You can have two people at the same time, same place, same injury, come out the other side different because we are different. Mm-hmm. So, to take the time and listen and try to understand their perspective, I think is extremely important. And don't define people because what your thoughts are. Like I said, I truly do believe, Helen Keller said it best, the only thing worse than being blind is having eyesight with no vision. And
definitely.
So, to just try to define them by what you believe. No, that's wrong. Who defines us is us. You don't have the right to define who I am, what I'm going to do, what I'm going to become. You don't have that right. That's my right. You can help me, guide me to certain things, but for you to define me, no.
Do you have any plans for any future trips, or what is like your dream trip, like the one you really want to do?
Well, it's kind of twofold. I have a couple of future trips. I can remember seeing the Grand Tetons.
Yeah.
So I'm going to go try to climb that in September to try to get to the top of that. But then also, hopefully next March, April, we'll be able to trek to the North Pole to complete what they call the Explorer's Grand Slam. And that is where you climb the highest peak on all 7 continents, which we've done.
Yep.
And to trek to both the North and South Poles, which I've already trekked to the South Pole.
So awesome.
And I think there's only been like 73 people in the world accomplish this, and nobody with a disability at this point that I'm aware of has done it. So, that's on the radar there. And then I love whitewater kayaking. So then I'd almost like to follow up the 7 summits with going around the world kayaking the major river on all the continents. Naturally, there's no river in Antarctica, and I've already done Africa, but I'd like to maybe visit that aspect of things. So
What did the South Pole feel like?
it was so cool to go down there and ski the South Pole. It was so funny.
You skied? Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Holy moly.
Yeah, it's not just go down there. You get we're pulling a sled behind us and stuff. But it was so funny. I was going with some people who helped guide me up Mount Everest, and they were sighted, naturally. And we get out there, and they're like, "This is worse than climbing Mount Everest, man. Everything looks the same. It never changes. It's just." And I'm like, "Duh, welcome to my world."
Exactly.
So it's like
now.
Yeah. What do you mean? I enjoy this because I don't have to worry about falling into a crevasse or falling off a ledge. I can just sit here and get in a rhythm, and I loved skiing to the South Pole. And I brought this up to some folks. I think a blind person could truly go down there and navigate that last degree, especially completely solo. And I think I might have kind of instilled that thought into another blind friend of mine who might go try it. The funding and just my age, I don't know if I want to go down there and do it, but it is so possible to do. And
because it does take a village to get this stuff done too, right?
Yeah. But I want to see someone do it. That's the goal. Is I think about the Grand Canyon. I told them too after doing it now. I want to go down there when I'm 75. 15 years from now, 14, whatever, but have some young bucks, that are out there doing it blind, visually impaired, and have people tell me they're out here doing flip tricks, whatever in these rapids, things that I can't do.
Right.
But I don't want to stop. It's just we're at the tip of the iceberg. I want people to come behind me and just destroy everything I've done, and so I can just sit back and smile and say, yeah, that's awesome.
Seriously, wow, that's good stuff. So you talked about being a father. So what is the most important aspect of that, and what do you want them to take with them?
I tell people this all the time. The pinnacle of the pinnacle of anything that I've achieved is having raised those 3 girls, and the fact that they will walk up to me around anybody, put their arms around me, and say, "I love you, Daddy." That's the greatest accomplishment of my life. I cannot top that. And what do I want them to take away from it is that they have this amazing life. They have this amazing opportunity to do, and I want them to focus on their gifts and to become whatever they want to become. You don't have to achieve, quote unquote, you don't have to get to the top of Mount Everest to accomplish great things. Like I said, mine is those girls. So, it's what I want them to take out of this is just to find whatever their pinnacle is and go do it to the best of their ability, and then look back at their life and with no regrets and smile and say,
yeah, create their own Mount Everest, if you
create
will.
their own, yes, their own lava falls on the Grand Canyon. Yeah,
I love it. To our listeners, we hope today's episode encourages you to push your limits, whether it's navigating your own vision loss journey, seeking community, rebuilding after a major life change, or daring to explore something new. Be sure to check out more episodes of Sightless Voices Unleashing Potential wherever you get your podcasts. Follow the Lighthouse of Houston on social media and visit our website, www.houstonlighthouse.org, for more of our programs and services. Until next time, this is Sightless Voices Unleashing Potential. Stay bold, stay determined, and keep unleashing your potential.